Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the ROS Media channel. I'm back again with our founder and president of the Republic of Old Souls, Ian Clifford. Today's episode's an important one. You know, following the currency creation webinar that we ran on Saturday, we've had a significant number of thoughtful, practical, fair questions coming from the members. We very rarely get time to answer them on the webinars. They can be long in themselves, and obviously we want to be respectful that people have other things to do at a weekend as well. So today we're going to walk through them. We'll just go through them clearly, methodically. There's around 40 questions that we've had. So no hype, no distractions, just some straight answers to questions that deserve a straight answer, I guess. So if you've been trying to connect the dots between, you know, the Envoy protocol, Asset Fortress protocol, infinite money, and how the currency creation protocol weaves into that, this episode is definitely for you. So if you attended the webinar at the weekend, or if you've watched the replay and you didn't get a chance to ask a question, we've got them all. We've downloaded every single one. I've got them here in a document. We're going to go through them step by step. We've got 7 different segments that we're going to cover. And the first segment is just briefly going through, you know, what currency creation is. Because again, even though people have been on the webinar, there is to some extent a little bit of confusion between the currency creation that maybe we tried versus what Ian has put together now. So Ian, welcome back. Glad to have you with us. Looking forward to digging into these questions together.
Yeah, thank you. I think that if anything should be described as the Holy Grail, this is it. Okay, so that's a big billing, right? That's a big statement to say up front, right?
Yeah. I'm excited about this. I really am, because I know we've spoken previously about to do with recoupment, to do with infinite money. There was a, call it a moment, wasn't there, that you had a eureka moment to do with the 98 Grantor Trust being that doorway into the public from the private, and that was a massive moment for you to kind of piece that all together. And the conversations that we've had offline surrounding this, you've had another one, haven't you, with regards to this?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, these things, you know, I think the universe is very well organized. It gives you clues all the time, and sometimes you tune into them and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you do tune in, but you don't really know what they mean. And I think that because of the quest that we're on to play Monopoly at the advanced level, which is what all of my documents that I'm writing are really about, my Ecclesia Law series, my documents, which I know a lot of people don't want to read a 10-page technical document. I get it. But I think that, you know, when you get into the subject of how the Monopoly board is financed, in my opinion, I think it's if you said to the average guy who might like to watch a bit of sport, whatever their sport is, whether it's rugby, cricket, football, whatever it is, right? What would you rather watch? Would you rather watch 15-minute highlights of a football match, a rugby match, or a cricket match? Or would you rather spend 10 to 15 minutes reading a document that is going to show you how to transform your world of commerce?
Yeah.
Now, some people would say, you know what? I don't care about transforming my world of commerce. I'm quite happy where I am. I do my thing. I pick up my whatever I pick up from what I do, and I'm not interested in learning anything, right? And I get it. You know, you don't have to know anything about this if you don't want to. But I think a lot of people, well, I know that a lot of people are very frustrated playing the game of Monopoly. You know, for a lot of people out there, it's a daily struggle.
It is.
It's not like easy for a lot of people. It is what they think about most of the time.
I see it, to be fair. I see it on the way to when I drop the kids off at school on a morning. You only have to look at people's faces these days. And even my kids have commented when we're in the car. Our daughter commented this morning. She said, "Dad, why are people so miserable looking?" And I said, "Darling, they're stressed out. They're sad. They're miserable. They're stressed out with their day-to-day lot in life, clocking in, clocking out, barely making ends meet. More going out than coming in at the end of the month, robbing Peter to pay Paul, whatever you want to call it. People, in general, people as a population are tired and struggling now. And you can see it in their faces. You really can.
You can. And if you extrapolate it out a bit, which is the direction we're traveling in, if you really deeply understood what UN Agenda 2030 is really about, if you really got your head round the plan to take ultimate control of how we operate on the monopoly board of commerce, with universal basic credit, with everything being tracked and traced, with the inability to make your own decisions on how you spend your money. If you really knew about those things, if you really were aware of that is the ultimate problem that we're addressing on the monopoly board of commerce, I think if you were given a choice to read a paper or to come to a webinar, as opposed to watching the highlights on the sport or some TV program or some movie or whatever it is, I think a lot more people would actually pay attention to this if they realise what the problems really are. And that's why, when I say this is the Holy Grail, it's not a hollow statement. It's a statement that I believe for those who want to seek out a remedy, and that doesn't mean everybody needs to, but those who are seeking remedy to the daily grind, daily struggle, to the perpetual problems that the monopoly board throws up, and it's going to get a lot worse. It's all by design. There's no coincidences going on here. It's all part of a very carefully orchestrated plan. If anybody thinks that just round the corner it's all going to be roses round the door and bright sunshine and nobody's got any problems, then they're really in for a rude awakening. It's not going to be like that. It's not baked in the cake. The cake is already, the ingredients are already being put together, and it's only just rolling out through a plan. And there, some people don't want to hear that. I get it. It's like, put the hand up. I don't want to know. Don't tell me about that. I'd rather carry on in my little world that I'm in. It seems to be okay. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right, sort of thing. Well, I don't operate like that. I'd rather get the problem on the table and say, okay, what's the nature of this problem? How difficult is it going to be to solve it? Because I believe that there's a solution for every problem. And I've yet to be proven wrong. So, to me, that's how the universe works. It gives you problems, but at the same time, the problems bring the solution. And currency creation for me is a solution to most of the problems that people are having. Not all. It doesn't solve your health problem. It doesn't solve your getting older problem or your wrinkles on your face problem or anything like that. But it does have the potential to solve your problems playing Monopoly. So for those who have no clue what I'm talking about the Monopoly board, we've just launched our YouTube channel, Winning at Monopoly, it's called. It's going to be a lot of content on there. And we have a Telegram channel called, strangely enough, Winning at Monopoly. And I've written various books about winning at Monopoly. And I strongly believe that we're all playing Monopoly, even though we don't realize it. The living man, woman is a agent for a player piece, which is the birth certificate construct. And it's the birth certificate construct that goes round and round the monopoly board, where the agent is liable for everything that the player piece, that's the person, the citizen, is doing on the monopoly board. I'm going to say that a million times in the next X number of years, because it's so fundamentally important that, you know, if you haven't got a grasp that that is what is going on, then it's time that you did. Because once you get that bit of framework in your mind, everything else that we talk about at Ross Media and in all the other webinars and everything else that we're doing starts to make sense.
It does.
I believe it does.
Did for me. You know, I can speak from personal experience. I always felt something was not quite right. Couldn't put my finger on it. And then when I learned and educated myself that typically what we believe to be the case is all inverted, completely inverted, and could see that separation between me as a living man versus the corporate construct on the monopoly board, everything started to make sense. And then everything that you see around you, not that I watch the news much because I try and keep away from the propaganda, it's all manufactured anyway, but a lot of what we see going on in the world begins to make an awful lot more sense than it did before. And you can start to plan as a result of that. You know, with what we're talking about here, you can't, even for people who maybe are in that state of ignorance and thinking, well, I'm okay, like you mentioned a minute ago, I'm quite happy with my lot in life. Ignorance is not going to be bliss when it comes to 2030. It really isn't. And you can't have a knee-jerk reaction to this. It'll be too late at that point. This is something that you need to learn now. It's something that you need to dedicate time to, even if it is only 15 minutes a day. And even if you don't like reading technical documents, you need to bloody read them. You do. You need to read them and you need to get a measure of understanding, because this is going to affect your freedom, your future, your kids, your family, anybody that you hold dear in your life. And that is not an understatement. So you've got to prioritize, ditch the Netflix for a little bit, start to learn some of this stuff. You don't have to be super educated. I'm not, but I get it now. It's taken me a while, but I get it. And once you get yourself into that state of mind, you'll start to understand why this is so important now, not in 1, 2, 3 years' time. Right now, you need to be planning for this now. And currency creation, as Ian has said, this is huge when it comes to forward planning. So before we dig into the questions, anything you want to do to set the scene surrounding currency creation? You said it was the Holy Grail. What did you mean by that?
Right. So there is credit and then there is currency. Okay, so there's a difference between credit and currency. Mm-hmm. We've all got credit, which is energy. So, you know, if we don't have any energy, we'd be dead, yeah? Yeah. Basically, as simple as that, right? So we have an energy coursing through us, which I say is consciousness. Okay, I mean, I'm happy to debate that with anybody, but I say it's consciousness. And that energy is transferred onto the monopoly board from the living being onto the monopoly board, which is an artificial board, and it becomes currency. So if you think about currency, what is currency? Currency is energy, yeah? Electrical current, it's energy, yeah? Yeah. So you see, they've given us all these clues, but we never really realized what we were dealing with, the nature of it. You know, did anybody really think that currency was energy?
Yeah. No, most people think it's money.
They just think it's money, yeah, because that's what we've been programmed to believe. So you see, if you then go one step further and say, okay, fine, I can kind of get that it's currency, it's current C, you know, it's like, I can get it. But, you know, where does it come from? Well, it comes from consciousness, yeah? And once you transfer your conscious energy onto the monopoly board, then how is that monopoly board actually operating? Well, it's operating in debt, because all the currency on the monopoly board is debt-based. And if it's all debt-based, and if there is north of 400 trillion of currency debt on the monopoly board itself, which is a worldwide monopoly board, the next question that I ask is, well, okay, fine, who is it owed to?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Because if you've got a debt, you must have a creditor, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a debtor without a creditor, can you? It's impossible. It's like two sides of an equation. If you've only got one side, then you haven't got anything at all. You have to have both sides of an equation. Yeah. 2 + 2, normally equals 4 if you're a mathematician. You can't have 2 + 0 = 4, can you?
No.
So if you've got a debt on the monopoly board and everything is debt-based, and it's not just me saying it, go and read your technical papers. Go and read the Bank of England's paper, Money in the Modern Economy. Go and read Professor Richard Werner's papers. Go and read any book on economics, and it will tell you that everything on the monopoly board, it won't call it monopoly board, but it is a monopoly board, is based on debt.
Yeah.
All these people that say, yeah, look at all my stuff that I've got, they don't actually have any stuff, because everything that they think they own is registered to the monopoly board itself. It's registered to the cabal. So we're all playing this game thinking that we own stuff on the monopoly board when actually we own nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many digits you've got in various investment accounts, cryptocurrency accounts, pension schemes, or anything else. The reality is you've actually got nothing at all, apart from one thing. And that one thing that you've got is the ability to recoup the credit that you put on the monopoly board. And that credit you put on the monopoly board is your energy. So then I want you to just think about that for a moment. Let's imagine that you got to my age of 60 and you've been putting credit energy on the monopoly board for, best part of 45 years or something close to 45 years. That's a lot of energy you've put on the monopoly board, right?
Yeah.
How many things did you do? How many times did you do these things over that period of time? You may not be in my generation. You might only be in your 30s. Well, you still put a lot of energy on the monopoly board. Everything you're doing is a transference of energy onto the board. So in this 15 minutes of reading a research paper or coming to one of my webinars, you could learn how to recoup that energy and then reuse it. Because once you've put it on the board, you can reuse it and recycle it and keep on using it and recycling it. And then maybe your struggles would be a lot easier to manage than they are at the moment. And that's why I say this is the Holy Grail. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, how isn't this common knowledge? Why doesn't everybody know about this? Yeah. If it's that good, Ian, if it's the Holy Grail, how come all the professionals aren't telling us all about it? Yeah. How come it's not all over the newspapers? Yeah. Why is it that you go to your financial advisor or your banker or your, anybody who claims to be an expert in finance and they're not telling you anything about this? That's a bit curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit curious, yeah. Well, it's for the same reason that if those people that are dying from cancer don't know that there's cancer cures.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same reason that people are paying fortunes for energy when there's free energy available.
Yeah.
It's for the same reason. Because the cabal doesn't want you to know about this. It doesn't mean it's impossible just because you don't know about it. And it doesn't mean that the guy that that you think you can trust, whoever it is that manages your money, maybe you do it. It doesn't mean that they're stupid.
No.
It just means that they're unaware of how this monopoly board game works. I've dedicated a lot of years to understanding it. And I think I do. And that's why I say it's the Holy Grail. I've actually made it so damn simple for you to take part in this. I am actually genuinely astonished about how many people don't realize what I'm actually offering them.
Yeah.
I'm astonished. Just imagine if you pulled up to a petrol station and you had a choice. You can turn left and there's free energy that you can put in your car, or you can turn right and you can pay however much, a gallon or a litre of fuel is for your car, right?
Yeah.
And you get to the petrol station and everybody's queuing and going right.
Yeah, and no one's going left. Stuff.
There's only a couple of people that are going left.
Yeah.
Where it's free. Because they're used to going right, yeah? Yeah, they're not used to turning left, so they always turn right.
It's a great analogy. I think, we talk about credit, we talk about currency, and we talk about the monopoly board. And, for those who understand it, they understand it. But for those who are new to this and they don't understand it, that is a great analogy. When you talk about this being the Holy Grail, when you put this into real world practical terms, I want you to imagine that everything that you pay for, that you think you are paying for, your food, your groceries, your Amazon and Netflix accounts, your fuel for your car, your holidays that you save up to take the kids on, your rent, your mortgage, whatever it is, money out of your bank account, you are able to recoup that. But what Ian's talking about here is being able to recoup every single security that you have generated since the age of 18, which this is why it's so big. And then think about being able to recycle that year on year on year, moving forwards. So it is literally like being able to, it's almost like I've got a card. This is my card. I've got my normal debit card in my wallet, or I've got this one. And this one, wherever I go, I only have to show this card and I don't have to pay for anything. This is my free pass. All my fuel's free, my food's free, my rent's free, my holidays are free. Who wouldn't want that in their wallet? And people are not understanding that.
My nephew, who is a famous little story in my sister's family, right? My nephew, when he was about 8, I think, my sister was out somewhere and they went somewhere shopping, and she was paying for things on her card. And he apparently, they went to a coffee shop and they were sitting there having coffee, and he said to my sister, "Mum, can I have one of those cards?" And she said, when you get to 18, yeah, you can probably get one, but you do realize how they work, don't you? And he said, "Well, it looks to me, I've been watching you. You just give it to the shop and you get whatever you want."
Yeah.
So you can actually have one of those cards, because she said to him, "Well, you have to go and get a job or run a business, and you have to generate all this stuff and blah, 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 and knock yourself out and, get up early in the morning and stay out until late at night and do all these things to earn the money that you've got to put in your account, and then you can use this card to spend it." Well, she wasn't wrong, because she didn't know about this. So I'm still astonished that when I do a webinar, that it doesn't go viral. And the reason it doesn't go viral is because the penny hasn't dropped.
Yeah,
I think
people sharing it.
It's too like, wow, can that really be true? And I think that's the reason why. But when you understand how the monopoly board works, it's not too good to be true at all. It's just truth. It's not too good to be true. It's just true.
Yeah.
So,
accept that, or you not accept it at the end of the day.
Well, you can challenge it, and you can say it's bullshit, and you can say it's some fantasy story that I'm telling, or you can actually look at it technically, and you can challenge it technically. Yeah. Nobody ever does, by the way. But those that might do that would then realize that it is true, because, you know, the only way you know whether something works is whether it technically hangs together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about perception. It's not about asking other people, do you think it works? I mean, that's one way of doing research, but that's not very reliable way of doing research. No. The only way you really know whether it works is to analyze it and test it technically. And if you do that and you come to the conclusion that it actually has got merit, then it's not too good to be true. And the problem I've always had in everything I've ever done is that I come up with things that look a bit too good to be true. Mm. And hardly anybody else, if anybody else, is ever doing them. So I always get caught up in the, well, you know, it sounds too good to be true. And my dad told me, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Probably is, yeah. That's the problem.
But you go and ask Nikola Tesla whether you could generate free energy from the atmosphere, and he would tell you, if you were able to talk to him, yeah, you can do that. I've built a machine that does that.
Yeah.
So it's not too good to be true, is it?
No. I interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago who's done just that. You know, so you can't discount this kind of stuff just because you haven't looked into it, or because it's something that you've never seen before. I spoke to a gentleman 2 weeks ago who held up a device that was no bigger than a can of Coke. And that can power a car, it can power a small house. And in the background, he had one working. He had one operating, and he showed me the numbers. And this thing generates more electricity than it takes to run. So it's self-sustaining. In other words, free electricity. And guess what it runs off of? Water.
There you go.
You put water in, splits the molecules, the hydrogen and the oxygen, and there's a very small nuclear reaction. It's cold fusion. It's perfectly safe. It's not something that's going to explode. But they have ones that are big enough to power a warehouse, that are about 1 meter cubed. They have ones that are washing machine size that can power your entire house, and that can also heat your entire house. You know, this is stuff that is available out there, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody wants to back it financially. The governments and the powers that be and the cabal are certainly not going to advertise this kind of stuff, because they want everybody to be burning fossil fuels and hike the price of oil up. But this stuff does exist. And that's exactly what we're saying here. Currency creation is real. It does exist. It's technically sound in its structure. And if you watch the webinar on Saturday, you'll hopefully understand, because that was a 3.5 hour long webinar. You'll understand why it is technically sound. If you haven't watched that webinar, you might be doing this the wrong way around. I would encourage you to go back and maybe watch the webinar first, then come back here and listen to the questions. But we've had some really good sort of thought out questions. So I genuinely think that people from the webinar have been listening, and they've put some thought into some of these questions, which is good. So
yeah, before we move on, what is it? Let's just break it down, make it really simple. Right? You can, everything that you put on the monopoly board, bank payments from the age of 18, mortgages, credit cards, loans, anything that is commercial that needed your signature to generate securities, because that's what you put on the monopoly board. All of those things can be recouped from the age of 18 onwards in most countries. In some countries it's 21. And it doesn't matter whether you're in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the United States, England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Holland, Germany. It doesn't matter where you are. The monopoly board system is operating in wherever you are, wherever you're putting your energy on the monopoly board. The monopoly board system is working, with only a couple of small exceptions in the world, which we don't even have to worry about. So it's because I get this question all the time. It's like, yeah, it sounds great, Ian, but does it work in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like it works in the United Kingdom, because that's where you're from. But does it work in my country? It's like, no, it works everywhere, because it is a one world monopoly board system.
Yes.
So that might be a question, but I wanted to get that out there up front. So if you could imagine that if you were able to add it up, and just go and add it up, just roughly, broadly speaking, add it up, whatever your age, how many bank payments have you made since the age of 18?
Yeah.
How many mortgages have you had? How many loans, credit cards have you had since the age of 18? What is the value of those items, because they're all securities, right? Add them up.
Yeah.
Is that a million? Is it 10 million? Is it 100 million? It's all different for different people. And it's not just what you put through your personal bank account. It can also be your business accounts.
Yeah.
So add it all up. Don't have to be precise. Nobody's saying you have to go and find your bank statements from 40 years ago.
No.
Just estimate it. And if you then scoop it all up and then divide it up between the nominees who you transferred your securities to, your securities being your promise to pay in the future, your bank payments, mortgage contracts, loan contracts, etc., etc. And then the next thing is, well, okay, fine. Where does this come from, Ian? Because I have this question, right? And a lot of people are confused about this. We're not going to take the bank to court and say, hey, you used my energy 35 years ago, I want it back.
Yeah.
And let's go to court, shall we, and get involved in a court battle. No. You see, the way that the monopoly board works is that the whole board is bankrupt, and therefore everything on the board is being controlled by a bankruptcy trustee. And the bankruptcy trustee is the United States Treasury, or the IRS. And they are receiving interest, if you like, or rent on the use of the energy that you put on the board. Let's just call it rent. Yeah. And that rent is going to the United States Treasury because the board is using your energy. So if you lend someone your car, you might want them to pay you for lending your car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might do. You might be very generous and say you can have it forever for free. You might do. But let's suppose that you lent someone your car for a long period of time, and you said, well, because, I want you to give me something for that. Yeah. Well, let's suppose that they gave the rent to borrow your car to the United States Treasury. Would you not want to get that rent back from the United States Treasury for using your car?
It belonged to them.
Let's say they used your car for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it was a very valuable car. And all the payments that they're making are going to the United States Treasury. What are you going to do? You're going to just say, okay, fine, I'm not bothered. Let's not worry about it. I've got another car. I'm not concerned. Or are you going to say to the Treasury, I want you to give me the rent that belongs to me on the car? Mm-hmm. Now, the car is basically, you substitute the car, in my analogy, for your energy. You've rented your energy onto the board.
Yeah.
Just like you rented your car on the board. You put it out there for rent. You put your energy out there for rent. The rent gets paid to the United States Treasury. and yet you're not putting in a claim to recoup it.
No.
Because you didn't know that you could. That's currency creation. How many of you would rent your car out for years and never want anything in exchange? Especially when you've got to insure it every year.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got to put the fuel in for the other guy to use, and you don't get anything back. If I'm making the analogy make sense, yeah?
No one sensible would do that. They would want that back. Now you translate that into working 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life for someone else. That's your energy. Getting up, crack of dawn, going to work, coming home, tired, having to do the same thing every single day, waiting for the weekend to arrive so you can maybe have a little bit of a break, and then doing it all over again, and doing that for the best years of your life, pretty much. And all of that energy, when it comes to the commerce world that you have been playing in, working in, if you've got the ability to recoup all of that back, why would you not want to do that? I'm not talking about your pension here. I'm talking about all that energy that you've put on the monopoly board, everything that's moved through bank accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, all of that. Why would anybody not want to do that?
Yeah, and then imagine that you could then go out and put it back on the board. So you've recouped it, you put it back on the board, and then you can recoup it again.
Yeah.
And then put it back on the board, and then recoup it again, and then put it back on the board and recoup it again. That is the cycling. If you didn't realize what the recycling of the energy is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's the Holy Grail. I'm happy for anyone to challenge it. If they want to challenge it technically, then fantastic. I'd love that debate. But nobody ever does, which is interesting. It's quite interesting, that, because I think people. No one yet has challenged it.
I haven't had anybody challenge it yet.
Not yet. I'm waiting for it, but you know, I'd love someone to challenge it, and then I'll explain to them. You know, maybe they're misguided on their research.
Sure.
Anyway,
shall we dig into some questions? Yeah, we've got quite a few to get through, so we'll go through these as succinctly as we can, guys. We've explained what currency creation is, just in brief. So here's a few questions that have come through from the members just surrounding the actual protocol itself, Ian. First one being, if I'm already in infinite money, is that now obsolete?
No. So the reason why it's not obsolete is because what I'm talking about here with currency creation is from the age of 18, you could do currency creation and not do infinite money.
Yeah.
But a lot of our members are already doing the infinite money.
Yeah.
So going forward, infinite money probably will be, it will probably be part of the currency creation because it is kind of the same process.
Yeah.
But we started with looking at last 3 years of bank payments for the infinite money. That's recoupment of bank payments and mortgages for the last 25 years. So what I've done with the breakthrough I made a few weeks ago is now, okay, fine, you can go all the way back to the age of 18. So it doesn't mean that what you're doing is obsolete. It just means that you can go back further with this. Yeah.
And to be fair, what you've just spoken about, as in when you've done the currency creation, imagine recouping all of that and then being able to put it back on the monopoly board. That is where infinite money would come in anyway. Because if you're then using that, you would now use the infinite money protocol to recycle that currency that you've recouped year on year on year. So the two go hand in hand in reality.
They absolutely do.
Okay. Are there additional costs involved in the currency creation protocol beyond the prerequisite protocols? So obviously we spoke about what the prerequisite protocols were on the webinar. Are there any additional costs involved in currency creation beyond those?
Yeah, well, I want to reframe what the definition of cost is, because I get asked this question quite often. And to me, cost means that you're actually putting something on the board that you're never going to get back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've all been programmed to believe that we're paying for things.
Yeah. Once it's gone, it's
so
gone.
I've got to pay for this thing, and once I've paid for it, I'm never going to get that payment back. Yeah, unless there's some sort of refund for some reason, which invariably you don't get. So you see, in the re-education of how the Monopoly Board works, there is no cost of anything.
Yeah.
In the longer run. Because how can you be paying things when there's no money of substance? And everything you put on the board is your energy, and you can recoup it all. So the definition of cost is, to me, it's an oxymoron. It's like ridiculous. It's a ridiculous question. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to answer it, but it's a question that reveals that whoever it is who's asking that doesn't understand the nature of the Monopoly Board.
Yeah.
You see, what the question should be, how much energy do I need to put on the board to facilitate currency creation, and when will I get it back? That's the question that people should ask.
Yeah.
Because there is no cost.
No.
There's only a cost in the old paradigm when you thought you were paying for things. But you can't pay for anything. All you can do is put energy on the Monopoly Board, which is a promise to pay in the future. Because you can't pay anything. It's impossible to pay anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you see, if you want to put some more energy on the board, you're going to be able to recoup it going down the road. And then you're going to recycle it, put it on the board, take it back off, put it on the board, take it back off. And so therefore, actually, I could go even further and say, well, wouldn't it be great if the cost was really high?
Yeah, because then you can recoup that back. Exactly. Yeah.
Because the more you put on, the more you take off, and then you can recycle a larger amount. So you see, when you reframe it, and when you re-examine what it actually means, when people say, "Oh, how much is it going to cost me?" Yeah.
Yeah, they're not getting it.
They're not getting it.
No.
So the amount of energy you need to put on the board to facilitate it is basically, it's a fixed amount and a back end percentage of the amount of energy that comes back. But even that, I found a way to zero that back end share that you're going to fund to the Republic of Old Souls.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have said, "Whoa, so I started with 100 and I recouped 100, and then you guys want 20% of that, so that leaves me 80. I put 80 back on the board, and then I recoup 80, and then you guys want 20% of 80, and eventually I end up with nothing."
Yeah, like an ever diminishing amount each year. Yeah, because of the 20%. Yeah.
No. Because what you're going to get back is 100% of the amount of the energy you put on, and we're going to recoup the 20% bit. So that actually you're always going to get back what you've put on the board.
Put out. Yeah, constant flow every single year.
A lot of people haven't understood that, because again, they're thinking about cost. Oh, there's a cost, because we've all been programmed. You know, what's it going to cost me? You know, you go to a restaurant and you pull out the menu, and it's like, do I really want to spend that on a steak or a whatever? Yeah. Yeah. We've been programmed to look at the cost. You go in a shop and you look at the price tag. It's like, oh my God, do I really want to spend that on a coat? Yeah. We've all been programmed to do it. Yeah. Yeah. There is no cost when you do currency creation.
No.
There is only a cash flow event. So if you put cash flow, if you put some energy on the board, you just have to wait for a while till you take it back off again.
Yeah.
So actually what you want to be doing is putting more on the board so you can take more off. Which, by the way, if you actually know, if you were to look into Robert Kiyosaki, It does the cash flow game.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know anything about Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
what does he teach? He teaches get a load of debt, yeah, basically, in a nutshell. Get as much debt as you possibly can and play the cash flow game.
Yeah.
Well, I could sit down with Robert Kiyosaki and show him how the game really works, but I'm sure he might already know, actually. I think he's bright to actually know, but he might.
Well.
And then you got Donald Trump, who's got billions of debt in his entire property portfolio, right? And many others. Maybe they know how the game works as well. Maybe they do.
Well, moving on. There is a question. We've already answered the question about, or rather, we've made a statement that you can do this back to the age of 18. But the question is, why? Why are members, or how are members able to recoup credit from age 18 onwards?
That's a really good question. And the answer is that, you see, the artificial entity, the birth certificate construct, came into its standing as a banker from the age of 18. And you see, for it to be a banker, it has to have a social insurance number.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, it tells you in there what is a banker, the definition of a banker. It says a body of persons is a banker.
Mm.
So what is a person? A person is a citizen. It is the body corporate birth certificate construct.
Yeah.
And it can't put any energy on the board because it doesn't have a license to do it. And they can't track and trace it without a social insurance number. And you don't get one of those until you get to 18. And you don't ever get one because you're a living man or woman.
No.
But you're an agent for this banker, the birth certificate construct banker, that is going to issue securities onto the monopoly board for the rest of the time that you're on the planet.
Yeah.
As a living man or woman.
Yeah.
That's why. Because they have to track and trace it through the social insurance system,
yeah.
which arguably is why there is a social insurance system.
Okay. So next question is there a yearly limit on how much can be recouped?
Well, it's not really a yearly limit. It is that the when you get into the technical side of the currency creation model, the birth certificate construct is registered to the cabal. That's the birth certificate registration, right? So it's actually their banker. Okay. Yeah. You get to use it as the agent. So the living man woman is the agent for the banker. The banker is the citizen, the person, not you. That's not you, by the way.
Yeah.
It takes a while for you to get your head around the fact that that banker, citizen person, is not you.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are still stuck on the I am that birth certificate name. I am that name on the bank card. I am that name on the court case.
Especially
a lot of people are still stuck on
that as well. That doesn't help, does it?
No. So you've got to get over that one. You've got to get that one under your belt, because if you don't get that one under your belt, I might as well talk in Swahili.
Yep.
Yeah. So once you've got that under your belt and you realise that you're not the birth certificate construct, the person, and then you realise that registration of that entity is with the cabal. Why do you think they want you to register the birth certificate with their system? Because that means that they can take control of it.
Yeah.
So if you then realise that the birth certificate construct is being controlled on the monopoly board, and you're basically issuing your energy through their banker, you have to make sure that you've got a control, an element of control over the banker. Well, how do you do that? Two things you do. You become an envoy of the Republic of Old Souls, and you declare that you have taken up your office as the general executor of the birth certificate construct, which is a decedent estate. It is a dead estate. Remember, it doesn't live and breathe. It's an artificial construct, yeah? It is an estate. And if you go and look into what an estate is in law, then it will start to make even more sense. Can you talk to the estate? No. Yeah? Try and give it a call. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do it, are you?
No.
Can I speak to the estate, please? Oh no, well we have the PR department. No, I want to speak to the estate. Can you speak to the person? No.
No.
So what you do is you take a lien out over the birth certificate construct. So people are going to say, well, what the hell is a lien?
Yeah.
A lien is a debt. So you see what's going on here is you're taking a creditor position over the birth certificate construct. You occupy the office of the general executor over the decedent estate. So the living you becomes the occupant of the office of the decedent estate, because every artificial construct has an office.
Yeah.
Not a Regis office with a desk and a computer.
No.
An office is an artificial construct, just like the person is.
Yeah.
But you occupy it as a living man or woman, and that occupancy of the office takes control as the general executor of the decedent estate. The office controls the decedent estate.
No different to, you mentioned Donald Trump earlier. Donald Trump holds the office of president of the United States at the moment. I'm not talking about the Oval Office. That's just the position that he holds within that, isn't it?
Yeah, Donald the man
is
occupying the office of the president.
Yeah.
So you occupy the office of the person, the citizen, the birth certificate name, yeah? So that's one thing you do, which is why we offer the Envoy protocol as a repositioning. And then the other thing you do is you take a lien out over the birth certificate construct. And that lien typically is no greater than $100 million. So that is basically, that's your credit card limit.
Yeah.
Is $100 million. So imagine if you went to American Express and said, I'd like 100 million American Express card, please. What do you think they're going to say to you?
Yeah, probably no.
Can you clarify how much you've got that can pay that off?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to clarify in currency creation, because what you can do is take a lien out. That's the living you takes a lien over the birth certificate construct for 100 million. And that means that the living you is now a secured creditor. So I'm going to make this even more simple, right? Let's imagine that you had a digger.
Okay.
That you own a digger, right? And you wanted to lend it out to your neighbor who wants to dig a great big hole in their back garden with it, right?
Okay. Definitely with you on this one so far.
Are you with me on this?
Yeah.
So the digger is yours, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to give it to your neighbor because he might ruin it, right? So what you can do is take out a lien over the digger. You could even take a lien out over your neighbor if you wanted to. A lien is like a debt. It's like a secured position. So if he ruins your digger, you can then claim back what he cost you because he ruined your digger. So I'm using these analogies because people can visualize a digger.
Yeah. And
if it's cost you 100,000 quid, and you give it to your neighbor and he smashes it to pieces and ruins it, you're going to want your 100,000 back, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you take a lien out with a financing statement which means that if it gets ruined, you can get your 100,000 back. That's a lien, right? Now, in the context of a lien over the birth certificate construct, you can't own the birth certificate construct.
No.
Why? Because it's registered to the cabal.
Yeah.
So you can never own it. But what you can do is you can take out a lien over it, and you can have a financing statement that basically ratifies the fact that you, the living, by the way, you, the living, is where the energy is coming from. You are now, you have a secured position. You are a secured creditor over the banker, which is the birth certificate construct, for up to 100 million. So when you put in your claim for your energy back from the United States Treasury, remember, they're collecting your energy, and you're not collecting it from them. They're getting rent on your energy, which is just staying on the board, and the cabal's going, well, thanks very much for that, because we're like having a really good time on your energy forever.
Yeah.
In the modern game of slavery. So when you want to get your energy back, there has to be a limit as to how much you can get back. Well, that limit is the lien over the birth certificate construct. In this example, 100 million.
Yeah.
So it's not really about how much you can take out every year. It's really about the limit is about $100 million overall.
Yeah.
Now, some people are going to say, well, do you know what? I can spend that. And then what am I going to do?
I'll go for the full 100 million. Why not? Why wouldn't I?
Yeah. So I'm here to tell you that I don't know anybody who can run their personal life with 100 million limit and run out of credit. I don't care how lavish your lifestyle is. 100 million should be enough, right?
Yeah. Should be enough for a lifetime. Never mind being able to recycle that every year.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking in those terms, probably not thinking on our wavelength.
No.
With this, you're really not.
No.
It's not about the money. It really isn't.
It's about liberation. If you liberate yourself from the slavery game and you recoup the energy, now you can do something more valuable, right? So what's it really about? I hope there is a question. And if there isn't, what's this really about? This is really about the fact that you've probably got a genius talent that you're not using.
Yeah.
So why don't you liberate the energy off the board, bring it back, and then go and do something which is actually going to benefit mankind, where you're using your genius, which no doubt you've got somewhere that you may not have been using because it got hidden away or it got suppressed because you had to go and get a job 9 to 5 to pay the rent or pay the mortgage.
Yeah. And we do have members. We do have members that are definitely thinking that way. We've got members that want to use currency creation to buy a plot of land or a particular property or building, to open up a clinic or open up a rehabilitation center or whatever it may be, that they do want to take their knowledge and their training and their genius, maybe in the health field, and do some good with that. So we've definitely got members out there. But if you're sitting here thinking, I just want that 100 million so I can go and buy myself a load of supercars and a yacht and I'll just recycle that every year and just sail off into the sunset, then it's not really what we're talking about, to be honest with you.
I can tell you that if you go down the road of booze and cocaine, which a lot of people do when they get up to the heady heights of wealth, right? You're probably going to regret it.
Yeah. You might not live to regret it.
You might not live to regret it. And I've met quite a few. In my old client bank, I had some very, very high hitters, very, very wealthy people who spent most of their time partying because their organization was throwing off cash flow like you could never believe. And they spent most of their time partying. And then after a while, their body started to deteriorate so much so that they had to stop doing it. So there you go. I suppose it was fun whilst it lasts. So.
Well, let's put a pin in that one. It's 100 million, guys. If that's not enough, then I don't know what is, quite frankly. The next question is, does this apply if someone has been self-employed their whole life?
Yeah, because presumably self-employed people still have to make bank payments. They still get mortgages. They still get credit cards and loans. They might not have a PAYE, because that's the other thing that you can recoup, is the tax that the employer has deducted from your wage packets.
Yeah.
They won't have that bit, but they'll probably have everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. If someone has already filed income tax this year, does that conflict with the currency creation protocol? Interesting one.
Yeah, what a great question. And again, revealing of the lack of comprehension of what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
So I want to do a webinar on what income is, actually, because it's a fascinating subject. If you look in any tax manual, and if the tax experts are going to watch this, I'd love someone to send me a definition of what income is.
Yeah.
From a tax manual. Yeah. Because it doesn't exist. I've looked.
It's a bit of an infinite loop, isn't it?
Yeah, it says income is a gain, and you look at gain, it says gain is an income. Yeah. So, okay, it's like a circular reference. So what is an income? Well, there isn't any guide or any definition in any tax manual I've ever found. I've looked in a few countries that actually defines what income really is. And the reason why there's no definition is because there's no money and you can't pay for anything. So if they actually define what income really is, they would then have to reveal that there's no money of substance and there is no substance to it, and you are the source of it, which is why they don't define what income is. You see, and then what then happens is they trick you, and it's a fantastic trick, to actually offer to pay them taxes. Yeah. So a lot of people would say, well, no, I have to pay my income tax, because if I don't, I get a load of trouble, right? Well, normally you send in a return, don't you?
Yep.
Because they've tricked everybody to send a tax return in, haven't they? So it's like you're telling them that you want to pay the tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you tell them you want to pay it, and they agree to that, you've now got a contract, haven't you? So it's like you offered them to pay them, and they accepted, and now you're in a binding contract. Yeah. Which is an interesting thing. I want to do a webinar on it, because a lot of people are.
It's a big one for people. Certainly a big bugbear, isn't it, when you think about it?
And then when you go to your accountant, when you run a business, and your accountant says, well, this year you've had a good year this year, so we're going to have to send in your tax return to the tax office. So your accountant became your agent.
Yeah.
You actually signed him up as your agent, yeah. And then your agent sent in the offer to the tax office to pay the taxes, which you didn't actually have to pay. So yeah, it's actually got nothing to do with currency creation, but it's an interesting subject, and one that I'd like to present. Maybe I'll write a technical paper on it, because it'll be quite an interesting one.
That would be good.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that after this interview. So I've been thinking about it for a while, and I've got all this up in my head, but I've never put it on paper. So maybe I'll put it on paper, and then I'll get some accountants to have a look at it, and they might go, "Oh, that's interesting," and then ignore it because it would put them out of business. Anyway, so the question about income, it's got nothing to do with currency creation. Currency creation is the recoupment of your energy. It's got absolutely zero to do with whether you are or whether you're not paying taxes.
Yep. Yeah. So we've covered that in terms of PAYE as well, because we're another one talking here about PAYE, which is part of the same thing. What happens if recoupments have already appeared on the tax transcript? We've obviously had confirmed over 600 million. on the tax transcript. Does that affect this as far as currency creation is concerned?
No, because you see what you've got is you've got a, I'm going to say 3 years, that you can actually extend it a bit further, but I don't want to go down that pathway. You've got 3 prior years to file tax returns.
Yeah.
And if you file for any one of those three prior tax years, you can scoop all your currency creation up into one of those 3 years. So I'm going to give you an example here because I like examples, right? So let's suppose that you were recouping $10 million of abandoned credit that you've put on the monopoly board, right?
Okay.
Under the currency creation protocol. What you'll actually be doing is a grantor trust will be established if you haven't already got one, and that grantor trust becomes what's known as the holder in due course of the credit. And the grantor trust that is going to be represented by a professional tax filing license holder is going to file a tax return to the United States Treasury that claims the taxes that the payers have been paying into the United States Treasury. The payers have been paying the taxes on your energy, which is the securities that you put on the monopoly board historically. And the payers, which are nominees, banks typically, but there are other nominees, have been paying taxes to the United States Treasury. So your grantor trust, which has become a nominee for you, the living, breathing you, is going to file a tax return to say to the United States Treasury that the true holder in due course has now arrived and is going to recoup the taxes that they are keeping that come in from the payers. So you can do that. Your grantor trust can file that tax return in any one of the last 3 years. Why? Because you can only file electronic tax returns within the last 3 years. You can't file an electronic tax return for 40 years ago, but you can scoop all the energy up.
Yeah.
Bring it up to a current year or one of the current years, which is the last 3 years, because the United States Treasury system enables electronic tax returns over the last 3 years only. Anything prior to that has to be done on a paper-based system.
Yeah.
And because you want to do it electronically, because the IRS runs an algorithm. It's called the 810 algorithm.
Yeah.
And if you want to get your reclaim of your recoupment through the algorithm, you need to file electronically. Because if you file on paper, it doesn't go into the algorithm. It will get held up somewhere. So and that probably isn't the question, but I wanted to give a bit more context to the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Another good one is, do we need to know the exact amount of abandoned credit before filing? So if people are going back to the age of 18 and they're, your age, my age, you're thinking, Jesus, that's like 40 odd years now. I can't possibly add that up accurately, nor do I necessarily have all the paperwork and the bank statements to prove it either. So what would be the situation?
I can only imagine how many people are scratching their head on, oh my God, where am I going to find all those bank statements?
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I put them, from last year, let alone 40 years ago. And I would be in exactly the same position. I am in exactly the same position.
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible to retrieve those records, even if you could remember what the amounts were that you might have been paying out, X number of years ago. If you go to the bank and say, hey, I had an account with you in 1989. Can you give me the bank statements? They're going to go, are you joking?
No.
We only keep them for 6 years, sir, and that's statutory 6 years. And then prior to that, they all get basically deleted from our system.
Yeah, they won't have them.
So there's no way that you're ever going to be able to retrieve them, right? Well, here's the reality of the Monopoly Board, right? There are many realities of how the Monopoly Board works.
Yeah.
So, and I'd love to be able to do this visually, because I think it would bring it to life, right? So, if you could visualize the Monopoly Board, and instead of there's hotels sitting on the board, if you know the game of Monopoly, let's say that there are investment banks.
Okay.
How many investment banks are there is a good question, right? There's about 10 big ones, really.
Okay.
And they really are they are literally the gods of the universe on the Monopoly Board, right?
Well, let's imagine the red hotels are the investment banks then.
Just imagine that those hotels.
Park Lane, they're on Mayfair, they're on all the expensive bits. That will put them all there.
So let's put Goldman Sachs on there instead of Park Lane Hotel. Yeah, let's put Credit Suisse on there instead of the Ritz. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the idea. Now, if you go through all the big investment banks, which, by the way, strangely enough, all operate in and around Wall Street, which is a bit curious, isn't it?
It is.
Why is that? You know, there's a road in Birmingham apparently, which has got, it's a whole road, and I've been there actually. I can actually say this is true. It's a whole road of Indian restaurants.
Yep.
I think it's called the Curry Mile, right?
Yep.
Well, in New York, which I've been to, sadly, I've been there many, many times, and I've had meetings with investment banks in Wall Street many, many times, right?
Yeah.
They're all there, right?
Yeah.
It's just like the Curry Road, right?
Yeah.
But these guys are the gods of the universe, or so they believe, right? And what's going on, you see, is that not far away from Wall Street is a place called Watery Lane, which is an interesting name for a road, right? Watery Lane, currency, yeah,
current,
bit of current going on in the Watery Lane, yeah,
yeah.
So Watery Lane, where the Department of the DTCC, the Depository Trust Company, operates as the securities registrar for just about the whole world of securities, right? So you've got trillions and trillions of securities that are being recorded and tracked and traced in this office, the Depository Trust Company in Watery Lane, which is not far away from Wall Street in New York. Okay, so you with me so far?
Yep.
So you've got the Monopoly Board, and you've got all these investment banks sitting on the Monopoly Board, right? And these guys are buying and selling your energy all the time. That's what they do, pretty much, yeah? I mean, they do lots of other stuff, and that's a webinar for a different day, because I could tell you what they all do, right? Because I've been in their offices, and I used to be involved in what they all do, right? So I know what they do, but the majority of what they do is trading your energy. So modern slavery is being traded on Wall Street, right? Pretty much, yeah. Now, even the guys who work in these organizations won't know that that's what they're doing. Jamie Dimon might know. He's the head of Goldman Sachs, by the way. He might know, but there won't be that many others that actually get it, right? Because nobody tells them what's really going on. Now, what they're doing is they are trading the securities, and they have to pay taxes on those security profits. And these guys know how to make a profit, right?
Yeah.
The old investment bankers, they actually do know how to make profits, right? And they're pretty good at it. In fact, they're so good that no investment bank in history has ever gone bust. That's how good they are, right?
Yeah.
Through thick and thin, the investment banks always survive, right? And what they do is they pay their taxes to the United States Treasury, and they pay them on a module called the 945 tax module.
Yep.
It's just a reference number for the tax module that they pay all these taxes to the Treasury for the rent of your energy. So on the Monopoly Board, all of these investment banks, which we've replaced the hotels with the investment banks, are paying the board creditor, or they're paying to the creditor, or the bankruptcy trustee for the creditor, I should say, the United States Treasury, not under the 945 tax modules, all of this rent, taxes, which belongs to you and everybody else, right?
Yep.
So that is what's really going on here. So when you put your grantor trust, a new piece on the Monopoly Board, it sits on the Monopoly Board, it qualifies to recoup that abandoned energy taxes that the United States Treasury have been collecting, because it's got the same standing as the investment banks. Apart from one thing, your grantor trust is the true holder in due course of the energy, whereas the investment banks are presuming to be the holder in due course.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to actually have the standing. Why? Because the living creditor is you.
Yeah.
The investment bank doesn't have the living creditor.
No.
But your grantor trust does. So I know that might not be explaining the actual precise question, but it might help people to visualize what is going on with this Monopoly Board, right?
Well, maybe in terms of that context, then, if people now understand how that works, and I hope you do, from what Ian's just said, in terms of how the investment banks are using your energy, renting your energy, making a ton of profit on the back of that, and paying taxes for the privilege, hoping that you never turn up, basically. That's what they're hoping as the holder in due course. Yeah. But I think to go back to the question just surrounding, how do I know the exact amount to file for? I can't. How do I get an accurate amount there? What if I file for an amount and I've overestimated and it's more than I'm actually due back? Maybe you could clarify that for people, because it's physically impossible, isn't it, for somebody to come up with an exact amount over the last 40, 50 years. Yeah. It's impossible.
Well, let's imagine that we were making those tax payments. So now I want you to change position on the Monopoly Board, right? So I want you to visualize you are now operating the treasury for Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest investment banks in Wall Street.
Okay.
Can you visualize that? Can you imagine that you are now the head of treasury for Goldman Sachs? And you're every year paying taxes to the United States Treasury under different tax modules. Because you don't just pay one tax to the United States Treasury, right? No. You are paying multiple taxes on different modules. So it's like, different types of taxes for different types of things, right? Under the 945 tax module, all of the omnibus accounts where you are claiming to be the holder in due course of the credit, you have to pay the taxes under the tax module. Okay. But do you know, if you were the treasurer, the head of treasury for Goldman Sachs, would you actually know exactly and precisely what taxes you are paying for which underlying creditor?
No. How could you possibly? Millions of creditors you're going to be paying for.
Yeah. So when you send in your electronic payment to the United States Treasury, you don't send it with a schedule of 10 billion people that you're paying taxes on the rental of their energy and all their bank payments and all of their mortgages and all of their credit cards and all of their payroll deductions. Just imagine how big that fire would be.
Yeah.
No, you just make a payment because you have to finance your 945 module with an amount which the Treasury is going to be satisfied with. I hope there's a question about what happens if that isn't enough.
Well, let's ask it.
Okay.
Because if the amount that they file isn't enough to cover the recoupment from an individual, so let's say, I'm going to say it now, let's say, because I really don't want any of you guys getting hung up on this 100 million thing. I really don't. But let's say I was going to be a real greedy bastard and I decided to go for the full 100 million. And I filed for 100 million because I can, because that's what the lien is. What if the 945 amount wasn't enough to cover that?
Yeah, well, then it starts to get even more interesting, right? Because the grantor trust, which you've established as your nominee, by the way, the nominee is described not that clearly, but if you want to read RS publication 1212, and if you can untangle the word soup that is in there, right? It is a bit of word soup. Yeah. Then you'll realize that the IRS publication 1212 has had the secret for years and years and years. And there's an interesting theory about 1212. It's like a bit binary, yeah.
We're getting into numerology now.
It's a little bit binary, yeah. Right? So I won't go into that, but just think about that for a while. 1 and 2, what's going on with computer code? Yeah. So in the matrix, perhaps. Yeah. Yeah. So what's going on with 1212 is it's saying that the nominee has the right to the recoupment if a 1099 OID is filed, right? Yeah. So what's going on here is that if the true holder in due course wants their recoupment from the payer is the investment bank, if you haven't realized. Yeah. So Goldman Sachs is a payer renting your energy on the monopoly board, paying to the United States Treasury, that they hoover up and say, thank you for that. The actual holder in due course never realized that they were the true creditor. So we'll keep that. But let's say it wasn't enough. The amount that the Goldman Sachs paid in their 945 module wasn't enough. Then under IRS publication 1212, which is the Bible, the IRS, by the way, have got thousands and thousands of documents, right? But 1212 is probably, for me, one of the most important ones, right? And the actual holder in due course can command the IRS to move taxes from other tax modules that the payer has paid in onto the 945 module
to cover
equal the amount of the recoupment that is being claimed against it.
Gotcha. Okay. So again, I'm just thinking practically because I love these interviews that we do, and I'm trying to think like the members are thinking. When it comes to the amount that they are filing for, it's an impossible task for them to come up with an accurate amount. Most people are probably going to round it up, not round it down. So let's just say that my estimate over the course of my lifetime from 18 to now was a couple of million, just as an example. But I wasn't sure. And I thought, you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound. Let me round it up to 3. But I'm now a million over potentially where I should be in terms of the credit that I've pushed out. What would happen in that scenario?
Well, there is no reconciliation of exactly how much credit you put on the monopoly board, right? Because it's impossible for that to be calculated or verified, right?
Yeah.
So the only constraint is how much the 945 module payments are that the investment banks are paying in to the treasury. So if there isn't enough, you can command, you can't, but the tax preparer and the trustee that you've appointed into your grantor trust can command the IRS to move taxes from other modules onto the 945 module, which is for the recoupment of the credit. That's the tax module that that finances the recoupments. Yeah. Now, if there wasn't enough, then you've got 3 tax years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, I said there were 3 prior tax years. So the taxpayers are paying in every year. Yeah, that's an annual payment.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 years to divide your return up with, right? And it might be that there isn't enough, and the payer hasn't paid enough taxes in, and you might not get your full claim in that particular tax year. So then we'd have to roll it into another tax year.
Gotcha. So whatever they decide to put in for, if somebody was doing currency creation, and to some extent, this puts a responsibility on the members to be as accurate and as truthful as they can be.
I'm not saying we will do this, but we may bring in a cap on how much you can actually put in here, because I don't want people to, I'll have 50 million, I'll have 75. No, I'll have 100, shall I? Everyone puts 100 million claim, it's going to just get ludicrously stupid.
Yeah, it is. And it's just going to attract completely the wrong type of people into the Republic of Old Souls. It's not what we're doing here, isn't it?
We're not doing it for that reason. It's not let's go and get free lottery tickets and everyone wins. We're not selling that. We're not selling that,
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think we should do a cap. I think that's a great idea. And it needs to be just a reasonable amount that can change somebody's life, improve their situation, like we've said, allows them to pursue what they're passionate about and what their genius is without it getting completely stupid. But basically what you're saying here is if somebody did put that in and the 945 didn't reconcile, then you can break that down over years, and you've obviously got the next year where you can file for it.
Yeah, the good news is we're not going to ask you to verify your bank statements and your wage slips and your credit card from 30 years ago. We're just going to ask you to put in a claim. And the only thing you are going to have to tell us is which bank do you think was the bank that was taking, was facilitating those transactions. So if you were being paid on a payroll, for example, can you remember the bank that you used to get your payroll from? If you had a mortgage 20, 30 years ago, which bank was it with? Because we do need to match it up. That's all we're going to ask you for, is the banks and the nominee names that you believe that are, were operating as nominees and using your credit.
Yeah. So you just need to kind of think, well, who did I bank with when I was 18? Did I change banks at any point in time? Some people have changed banks, haven't they? But typically when you're with a bank, most people stay with them for quite a good period of time.
In my opinion, most people can remember who the mortgage was with.
Yeah.
If they really rack their brains, they'll find it out. Or they could go to they could actually go and look it up at the land registry or at the property registry, because it will tell you who the mortgage operator was. So there's always a way of finding it out.
Yeah.
And we're not looking for precise. People are getting hung up on this. Oh my God, what happens if I'm £5 out on my 30-year ago bank payments? We're not looking for that level of granularity on it. It's an estimate, really. It's an estimate.
All right, let's move into documentation and records then, because we've kind of covered a lot of this. So we have covered about the bank statements and, do I need to go back decades? No, you don't. how a credit's verified going back 40 or 60 years. We've covered that as well. Here's a good one. What if past mortgages were overseas or in another language? It's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, there is no difference in putting credit on the board, on the monopoly board, whether it's in Arabic or whether it's in Russian or whether it's in English. Energy is energy, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, unless there is a caveat. Unless you took a mortgage out with a bank from North Korea.
Okay.
Which is unlikely unless you live in North Korea.
Gotcha.
The North Koreans don't play they're one of the exceptions. They don't play in they're not actually playing the monopoly with the investment banks as the gods of the universe. They've actually got their own system, strangely enough.
All right. Well, all the documentation and record side of things we've kind of covered. So what I would like to move on to next is the nominee and the legal structure. Again, we've covered some of these questions, but let's just go through these briefly as well. What is the difference between executor of the estate and trustee of the birth certificate trust?
Well, what a really good question that is. An executor and a trustee are two different things, okay?
Yeah.
In the law. So an estate has an executor. And if you like, an executor is like a manager. Because the estate is artificial, remember we said that you occupy the office of the general executor. So you see, everything on the monopoly board is artificial, including the office. The general executor office is another artificial construct. It's not real. It doesn't live and breathe. So when people say, "Oh, I'm an executor for a will," no, you're not. The person that you are the agent for is the executor of a will. See? So the living man, woman is the agent for a person, a citizen, a birth certificate construct, which can occupy the office of a decedent estate. So you've got a real living man, woman that is occupying through the agency to the birth certificate construct person that occupies an artificial office of an artificial decedent estate on an artificial monopoly board.
Yeah.
When you say it like that, it's like, how the hell do you play that game?
Yeah.
With all those artificial entities, right? And the trustee of a grantor trust, right? So if you're looking at the asset fortress protocol as a grantor trust, which I'm assuming is the trustee they're referring to. Yeah. Again, it's another artificial construct, right? Because a trustee is also. Let me break it down even further, right? What do you think a doctor is? What do you think a man? What do you think a Mister is, or a Mrs. or a Ms?
It's a title.
How about a professor? Yeah. How about a scientist? How about a bricklayer? Yeah. Are these real?
No.
So is a trustee a real man or a woman?
No.
No. It's like a bricklayer.
Yeah.
Or a milkman. Or a doctor. Or a professor. It's just a title. And a title of trustee has to have an agent, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the agent is the living man or woman. So you see, when you look at the monopoly board, you've got the birth certificate construct, which is artificial and plays on the board. You can put a trustee artificial piece on the monopoly board. You can put a doctor artificial piece on the Monopoly board. You can put a Mr. artificial piece on the Monopoly board, a professor, a bricklayer. Are any of these artificial constructs real? No. So you see, when you occupy the office, you're actually the agent for the occupant of the office, because the occupant is the person, the birth certificate construct that occupies the office of the body corporate, which is all artificial. Yeah. So it's really interesting. If you could visualize it all, it's like, how ridiculous is all that?
I know. It's layer upon layer upon layer, isn't it? Designed to confuse people, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to meet somebody and say, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a doctor. I'm a professor." Really? I thought you were a man or a woman. No, I'm a doctor. Am I? Are you really? Or are you just the agent for a title, an artificial construct on a Monopoly board?
Yeah, called a doctor. Called it. Exactly. Okay. So here's a question. If I declare myself alive and retake the office of General Executor, will the legal system acknowledge that?
Well, it doesn't really matter whether they acknowledge it or not. So a lot of people get hung up on this, right? Let's imagine. I'm gonna give you another example, right, which might bring it home. Let's imagine that you live in a house, and next door to you is a field, and it's never been built on before. And outside your house is a lamppost. And some guy has just bought the land next to your house, right? And they put a notice up on the lamppost that they're going to be building a house or building something on the land next to your house, because they got permission to do so, right? That notice on the lamppost is, what is it? It's a declaration, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a declaration of a standing. Now, you don't have to read the notice on the lamppost, and maybe you don't even see it.
But it's there.
But you don't have to come out of your house and say, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a photograph of that notice, and I'm going to record it somewhere, and then I'm going to reply to whoever put it on the lamppost and say, yeah, I agree with your notice. I've acknowledged it, and I'm absolutely 100% behind it." How about a declaration of war? So allegedly, if this history is true, Hitler and his various armies occupied Poland in 1939, right? Allegedly. Yeah. And the old British didn't like it too much because they were allies of the Polish, according to the history books, which may all be bullshit, but that's what the history books say, right? So what did the British government do? Is they put out a declaration of war unless Hitler withdrew his troops from Poland. Did Hitler and his cabal, his henchmen, get that declaration and say, do you know what? We're going to reply to that? No. But did the Second World War allegedly happen?
Allegedly, yes.
I think if the history books are true, and all the documentaries that have been made about it are true, which they might be, I'm not saying they are, but they might be, did that declaration of war actually get acknowledged by Hitler and his henchmen?
No.
Have I made my point, Andy?
Yeah, I think you have. I think this is, again, this is a mindset thing. People are almost wanting to seek acceptance for a status that belongs to you anyway. It is your right to declare these things. You don't need acceptance in writing for that.
No.
You really don't.
You
So
don't.
I hope that makes sense.
You see, it's actually a lot deeper than that. When you make a declaration, you're putting an energy out in it's like a magician's spell. It's like you've waved your wand and you've put an energy out. It's an intention, yeah? And an intention is an energy. So you don't have to get acceptance if you do something or say something, that's an energy that goes out, yeah? Everything is an energy that goes out. Your energy on the Monopoly board is putting energy on. When you make a declaration, you're putting an energy out. You don't need it to be accepted and acknowledged and get a letter back saying, oh, thanks for your notice, that we 100% agree with you. By the way, next time you come to London, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you.
Yeah. Okay. Got some questions about the 508c1a side of things as well in terms of the structure here. Is the 508c1a ministry structure essential for recoupment?
No. So I added it into the design because, having been quite wealthy in my earlier career, there's only so much you can spend, right?
Yeah.
I promise you, there's only so much you can spend. You can't spend everything that you get in. It's just near impossible. If there's a river coming in that is faster than the river going out, you end up with a surplus, right?
Yeah.
What do you do with it? You could go and buy some Bitcoin. Maybe you go and buy some XRP.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you go and have a meeting with some guy who calls himself a financial expert. And he's going to put all your savings into BlackRock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Vanguard. How about that?
Yeah.
State Street. Because that's pretty much all that happens these days. And you could trust the fact that those guys are actually going to do a good job for you. And when you want to get it back, you might actually get it back if you're lucky, right? But we did an interview not long ago, Andy, where I was explaining that the custodians, nominees, by the way, they've got legal title over all the assets.
Yeah.
And to burst the bubbles of the cryptocurrency gurus, that's all across the cryptocurrency as well, right?
Yeah.
So you could do that if you wanted to, and you could get all your recoupments and you could stick them straight back on the Monopoly board and give them to the nominees for them to look after, right? I don't think that's very smart, personally.
No.
Because all of those nominees have now got legal title of your recoupments.
Yeah.
You call them stocks, shares, bonds, call them crypto, call them whatever you like. Basically, you put your energy back on the board and you're storing it in assets that don't belong to you.
No.
Now, how smart is that? You've just taken it off the board and you put it back on the board, but it's no longer, you don't have any control over it, right?
You've just given control away again. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to win any, Mensa prizes for that, are you? In the old IQ stakes?
No.
I don't think you're going to get a score of 200 for doing that, really, are you? Right? So if you have a ministry, and a ministry is a private non-profit organization that can open a special deposit account, which, by the way, is the only type of account where the funds in it actually do belong to the ministry. You haven't rented them back to the board where they've got legal title. Which is why, strangely enough, the churches have special deposit accounts. because the old guys who run the churches are a bit savvy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't just wear gowns and scarves and funny hats and wave these lanterns about. They've actually got a few scholars in their back office. It's a bit strange, this, because they actually understand the game of Monopoly.
Yeah.
And what they do is they open special deposit accounts, because they know that if the bank goes bust, which might happen in the artificial game of Monopoly, that they are then secured creditors over the funds in those accounts.
Yeah.
And the funds actually belong to the church,
Mm-hmm.
not to the custodians, i.e. the banks that have got legal title. So if you've got a surplus and you don't want to play the game of Bitcoin, XRP, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and give it all back to the pirates who run the board, because they are pirates. If you visualize that all these pirates are sailing around in their pirate ships.
Yeah.
And what you're actually doing when you take out a pension or an investment or invest in Bitcoin is you're putting your energy onto a pirate ship.
Yeah.
And it's going to sail away one day and never come back.
Yeah.
If that's another analogy. I hope it is. So that's why I put it in there. You don't have to do it at all. If you trust the pirates to not sail away with your energy, then put it on a pirate ship if you want.
Or you can keep it in your own ministry special deposit account.
Or you can put it in your ministry, which is a private ministry, which is which has the credentials, because it is being recorded and set up in the way that is private. Strangely enough, all these churches have already figured this out, and they actually know what they're doing, strangely enough. So you can do the same if you want to, but you don't have to. If you really want to play advanced Monopoly, you use the pieces on the board that give you the most power. And one of those pieces is a ministry.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the ministry itself, would the ministry account be managed by the Envoy? Would it be managed by Republic of Old Souls? How would that work?
Well, in order to open the special deposit account, I'm going to be flippant here, right? So you in the daytime you're a van driver, and you're going to set up a ministry. And then you're going to go to the Bank of America and you want a ministry bank account. And the old boys at the Bank of America are going to go, got a van wants to set up a ministry bank account with us, and he wants to put in 50 million. Is that a bit suspicious? Should we call up compliance and ask the compliance guys in the bank, does this look a bit weird? Because we've got a van driver here, he's got a ministry, wants to put 50 million in an account. And by the way, he wants to secure it so that if we go bust, we have to give it back to him.
Yeah.
What do you think the Bank of America is going to say? I've got a feeling they might say, actually, we don't offer that type of account for that. Yeah. Much as it might look like we do, in this particular situation, we don't offer it.
Yeah.
No. So you put in a professional trustee of your ministry.
Yeah.
That actually has a banking platform, and that, by the way, is Ecclesia Trustees and Ecclesia Financial, which we're going to do an interview about soon, Andy.
Yeah. So you have your professional trustee, you have your intermediary, which will be Ecclesia Financial, and you let them handle that side of things for you.
Let them handle it, and then what's going to happen is that you are going to receive, Because you might be wondering, well, why on earth would you want to open a ministry, appoint a trustee, and then open one of these special deposit accounts? It all sounds a bit complicated. What do I get out of it? What do I need to do that for?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is a question, but if it isn't, I think we need to answer it, right?
Yeah.
The reason why you might want to do it is because let's suppose that you've got some surplus recoupments and you've got your cycling going on. So this surplus is building up a bit, right?
Yeah.
And I can promise you there's only so much you can spend. Even my wife would have difficulty spending all this, and she likes spending. I'm sure we all know people that like spending, right? She would spend all day long in the shops if she could, but even she couldn't spend this what we're talking about here. It would be nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So eventually you end up with a surplus, right?
Yeah.
And when you've got a surplus, then you want to put it to work, don't you?
Well, I would.
If you've got if you want to actually prosper on the monopoly board, in addition to recycling your recoupments.
Yeah, I'm all for passive and leverage.
Yeah, you want to put it to work, yeah? So if you rent it back to the Treasury through your special deposit account, guess what? They pay interest on special deposit accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they get to use that credit again, and they can hypothecate it on the monopoly board.
Yeah.
So they actually pay you the rent. So you recoup it from them and then give it back to them, renting it back to them for them to pay you interest on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the definition of advanced monopoly.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the access point for this as well then. So let's look at the financial entry. Now, some of this is going to be down to the consultants and having a conversation with the consultants, but I just want to cover these questions. So first one is what level of finances are needed to begin currency creation? I'm not sure whether that's referring to the actual donations required to start the protocols, or whether that's, what level of finances do I need to have as an amount to recoup? I'm not quite sure what they're talking about there.
Well, I imagine that's, what do they have to pay?
Yeah.
To set up? I imagine that's what that question means.
Yeah.
And if that's the question, it all depends on what you've already done with us, because you might have some credit that you can offset. You might have, basically the consultant is going to calculate for you what amount you have to pay, because it's just use on the monopoly board language, to fund your currency creation program, your protocol. Yeah. Now, it is linked to how much you are going to try and recoup, yeah? Yeah. So that is one constraint, right? So it's not like everyone pays the same. One guy's doing 10 million, another guy's doing 1 million, and they both pay the same. There is a correlation between the amount that you're recouping and what you're paying to get the protocol off the ground.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And that's deliberate. I have deliberately done it that way so that it is a bit of a constraint for everyone piling in saying, you know what, Ian, I'll have 100 million.
Exactly.
It costs me the same as 1 million, so I might as well have 100, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got guardrails here, which are intentional. And, you've mentioned that potentially there would be potentially introducing a cap or a limit to how much you can recoup as well, just to kind of keep things on a level with our members. We don't want we don't want to attract the wrong type of people into the Republic of Old Souls. But that's obviously a conversation for another day. Okay, let's have a look here. Here's one. Now, we spoke about this before we came on camera. I think I hope a lot of people understand and realize the answer to this question. But for those of you who don't, let's ask it again. Why have some members invested significantly, which many of us have, including myself, why have some members invested significantly already without seeing a financial return?
Well, I'm glad you've asked that, because when you comprehend, as I was explaining not long ago, I was actually explaining this to Mel Clark, the interviewer who runs the Never Settle podcast.
Yeah.
Which you can find on YouTube. She's interviewed me 3 times, I think. Whilst we were off camera, she said, Ian, I think it's amazing what you're building here. But the pushback that she gets on her channel, because lots of people contact her, is, it all sounds awesome and amazing, but where's the evidence of it working? And why haven't all these people that have joined the programs in the past got their recoupments?
Yeah.
And the next question rankled me a little bit, right? I have to be honest. It's, Ian, why aren't you doing something about it?
Okay. I can understand why that would get, why that would rattle you.
It did sort of rattle me a little bit, Yeah. It's like, what do you think we're doing, So when you go back through the history of this, in 2023, I started looking into the whole theory of abandoned credit recoupment.
Yes.
And I was aware that that's strange, isn't it? Just as I started to talk about my discoveries, my iPhone.
I think it's probably because you said theory, and that sometimes sounds like Siri. That's what it is.
Could be,
yeah.
Anyway, it started asking me questions. It's like, really? I hate that thing. I want to get rid of it, right? Anyway, so in 2023, I started looking into the theory of credit recoupment. And there were various people out there at the time promoting all different sort of ideas on it, right? There was a guy called Chris Hauser, who's actually locked up at the moment in I think it's called Cock County, right?
Okay.
In the United States. And this fella had a YouTube channel that had, believe it or not, at its peak, it had 1 million followers.
Right, okay.
And Chris Hauser was talking about using a tax form called a 1099-A, where you could go into a car dealer, allegedly.
Oh, I know this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could sign a 1099-A and give it to the car dealer and say, well, that's like a check, mate. Didn't you realise? That Bentley over there, I'm driving it out the forecourt, right? And he, Hauser, was very, very good at explaining why that could work, right? Or why it should work, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people actually tried it.
Yeah.
Didn't end very well for most of them. And then you've got another fellow who came along a little bit later, who you've actually interviewed, who started saying, well, infinite money is all about getting a credit card, getting the bill every month, and then endorsing it and sending it back to the bank.
Yeah.
And then you can just basically spend as much as you like. And every time you get the bill, you just endorse it and send it back to the bank.
The bank will wipe your card off and you start again, kind of thing. Yeah.
And that fella is called, what's his name? Brandon Williams, yeah? Brandon Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm not criticizing Chris Hauser or Brandon Williams, because they were both trying to get they were both trying to use infinite money or credit recoupment, right? In different ways. And then there's some other people out there who were offering all sorts of elaborate schemes, right? And then what happened in 2023? I had already read a paper some years before from a guy called Gene Keating.
Yeah.
And in 2023, I was doing stand-up shows in our London offices on the top floor. Every Friday, I was doing a morning and an afternoon stand-up, and part of that stand-up 3-hour physical presentation in the morning and the afternoon was me explaining about the 1099 OID.
Yeah.
And how they're all using our credit. And I was doing it in 2023, in late 22 and early 2023.
Yeah.
And I knew that Chris Houser's 1099A program was a load of nonsense. And I also knew that later on that Brandon Williams' infinite money was a load of nonsense as well, even though technically it should work, but it's never going to work, right? It's too visible. So in 2023, I set up, back in those days, we had a guy called Dan Fullick, who was in our research department.
Yeah.
And I gave Dan Fullick the job of investigating the 1099A theory. There was also a 1099B theory, which is a different version of the 1099A. And I got them working on it, right? I got Dan Fullick working on it, and then I got some other people working on it. And we actually tried in 2024 a pilot scheme based on a 1099B tax filing.
Okay.
Similar, but not the same as a 1099 OID.
Yeah.
And we got checks back.
Yeah.
5 checks back. Physically cashed them.
Yeah.
And there's never been any comeback.
No.
Right. That was 2024. And then what happened was, that was the end of 23, early 24, I think it was, the checks came back.
Yeah.
Then we set up the office in Bali, whilst I was in Bali, and we recruited all the staff and we set it all up, and I brought Lisa Griffin in to be the head of the tax office. And all the way through 2024, Lisa filed tax returns, and we set trusts up and she's filed tax returns. But it wasn't done correctly. And at the end of 2024, around October, November time, I'd left Bali and I went back there for 10 days. I physically flew to Bali. It's a 30-hour trip, just to put it into context.
Yeah.
To go and have a look at exactly what Lisa had been doing and to discover why it hadn't worked. And I did discover the reason why it hadn't worked. And I also came up with the remedy, which was to use a 98 series grant or trust as a nominee.
Yeah.
I had one of my eureka moments.
Yeah, that's the one we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
For which I told Lisa about, and bless her, she didn't really get the significance of it. But there again, that's a story for a different day. So then what happened was we then established grantor trusts for all of the members at the end of 2024, moving into 2025. And establishing a grantor trust means you have to get a tax reference number and set up a trust structure for what was at the time 3,000 members.
Yeah.
That's quite a big job, yeah?
That is a big job in itself, yeah.
But we did it. And it took several months to get it all done, even though we've got a big team of people in Bali working on it, right? Permanently, full-time, working on this. And then we got to June of 2025, and Lisa Griffin had left. She'd left in January 25, which was quite interesting, when I just found the answer to the equation, when I just found the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. She resigned.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting in itself. And I think a lot of people can realise why. And we then, Lisa then wrote to all the US trustees that we had recruited, 36 of them, who were all operating as trustees for the tax filing grant or trust, and told them all that I didn't know what I was doing, and she did, apparently.
Yeah.
So the student had suddenly become the master, which is quite interesting, I thought. And not long after that, within days, we started to get wages and tax transcripts in. And that was June of 2025.
I remember.
And around the same time, Amy Sanger, who was the head of the US trustee network that we had established, she started to behave very, very strangely. And looked like she was having a mental breakdown between June and September. And in September, I had a meeting with Amy Sanger, with Angela Clarkson and Sean Benny, who are all with the organisation. And Amy Sanger had agreed to step down as the fiduciary because she was struggling mentally, right? Allegedly.
Yeah.
And then she sabotaged the entire recoupment program for all 3,000 members. And you might be thinking, why on earth would somebody who's expecting their own recoupments, because Amy was, sabotage everybody else's? Why would anybody in their right mind do that? And I struggled with that for a while, until I realised the reason why, which is pretty obvious when you know the truth of it, is that she'd stolen 1.5 million of our reserve.
Yeah.
And she closed all the bank accounts where the reserve was held, and she'd set them up under fraud to make them look like they were accounts in my name, but actually they were accounts in her name. It's a very sophisticated fraud that she perpetrated. And in order to create chaos, she had written to the United States Treasury, the IRS, and said that every single one of the grantor trusts, the 3,000 grantor trusts, had been set up under fraud.
Yeah.
And the trustees didn't know anything about being trustees, allegedly. So what did the IRS do? When they get fraud notices coming in for 3,000 trusts, where there is at that time $500 or $600 million of confirmed recoupments that are set to be drawn down and paid out, what do? Do they just pay them out? Or do they freeze the whole lot?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They froze the whole lot. And that was around October, November of 2025.
Yeah.
And then we tried to rescue it all by sending in corrective filings for 3,000 trusts and replacing the original 36 trustees with one trustee.
Yeah.
But the IRS weren't playing the game because they wanted to look into the fraud, alleged fraud, right? Which is Amy Sanger's reporting. And so then the tax filing professional with the license, Mr. K, let's just call him Mr. K.
Yeah.
He and I got together, and obviously we don't like what had happened there at all because he was expecting his recoupments as well, right?
Of course, yeah.
And it's his license that's been used to do all the tax filings.
Yeah.
So if Amy Sanger was correct in her assertions to the United States Treasury that all of these trusts have been set up under a fraud, that would make Bill Kimball, I've just said his name, haven't I?
You have.
That would make Mr. K a fraudster.
Yeah.
And Mr. K, with a very deep track record, not dissimilar to mine, doesn't want to be labelled as a fraudster for 3,000 tax filing trusts. So we had to correct it all, and that is what is going on at the moment. And that meant having to re-establish the entire infrastructure yet again for our members. Which is what we're currently doing, re-establishing all the contour trusts, re-establishing all the banking arrangements to receive the recoupments, because we had to modify and pivot from what we had planned to do in 2025. So for those people who say, well, it's all very good and it all sounds really fantastic, but there's been no results, is there? So it can't be real. That's because they don't know what's happened and what we had to do about it. And for those people who are that far away from the facts, who are going around saying, yeah, that Ian, he keeps doing it webinars every Saturday. He keeps selling all these new things, but he's never delivered the original ones yet. So I think we better ignore him. And then the other ones who are going, well, Ian's a bit bright, isn't he? He's got all these things going on. He sounds like he knows what he's doing, but he spends more time doing interviews and doing webinars than he actually spends fixing the problem. Come and sit next to me for a week and see how much time I put in trying to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And then you might change your mind. If you actually sat next to me, you may need some energy, I'll tell you, because the amount I put in might surprise you.
So I hope that answers that question for anybody who does not know, that we're not all sitting on our asses here doing nothing. We're all working incredibly hard towards exactly the same goal, which is a result for each and every member, because ultimately it's those results that's going to push the freedom plan forwards. And like I said, this isn't about the money. It really isn't. This is about the freedom plan. Unfortunately, money, currency, call it what you will, as a tool is required to push the freedom plan forwards. And the results are what we need to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you see, the problem is that the ocean, the Monopoly board is like a maritime board. Yeah, a lot of people say it's a maritime board. It's the the maritime. It's currency. It's all based on the sea. Well, on the sea, you've got a lot of pirates.
Yep.
And some of those pirates actually join you because they want to get into the inner circle to figure out what to do, how to do it, right? So sometimes pirates who are dressed up as your friend actually join you. And one of those pirates has had her recoupment check.
Yep.
Lisa Griffin.
Yep.
Who left in January under spurious, nonsensical reasons, who knew that Amy Sanger was going to sabotage the entire organization at some point going forward, because they knew each other very well, but actually had her recoupments before Amy Sanger fired the fraud reports off to the IRS.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
I think we'll put a pin in that one now. Because what I would like to do is now move on to timings and future expectations, because I think if you don't understand the reasons why you have not seen a result yet, personally speaking, hopefully now you do, and that we are now working towards getting that result for each and every one of you, and for me, and for Ian, and for my wife, and for everybody else who's working 5, 6, 7 days a week here as well. So let's talk a little bit about moving forwards then, Ian. Realistically speaking, when should members expect to see a recoupment result, do you feel?
Well, everything has got a step-by-step process to it, right? So the first step is you've got to have a grantor trust set up.
Yeah.
Because you can't file tax returns unless you've got a trust that is operating as the grantor and the holder in due course. So without that, there's no way you can get anything off the ground.
No,
right? So that's your tax filing grantor trust. So that takes a few weeks to get set up. You may already have one, but if you haven't and you're new to this, then you need one of those, right?
Yep.
Next thing you need is you need to become an envoy. Because, we're not going to do this unless you've got the right standing, right?
Yep.
Then you're going to need to establish an asset fortress protocol.
Yeah.
Because you need somewhere to put the recoupments.
Yep.
If you're not going to put them in the ministry, then which is really only there for the surplus, you need somewhere as your treasury to spend and recoup, which is your private treasury, which is the asset fortress protocol. So you need one of those, right? You don't need it immediately, but you're definitely going to need it for your recoupment start flowing in, right?
Yep.
And then what we're going to do is we are going to find, after you've told us which banks that you are issuing your securities through, we're going to go and find in the world of the magic game of investment banking, we're going to go and find what's called CUSIP numbers. So these are securities reference numbers that align to the banks that you put your energy through as nominees. So we have to go and do a bit of research, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. There isn't just put it in a search bar and it comes up with the answer. No, it's a bit more detailed than that.
CUSIP for NatWest Bank. It's not going to tell you.
The thousands and thousands of securities which the gods of the universe are trading at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse and all those investment bankers, they don't make it easy for you to find the securities. So we've got to go and find them. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add everybody up who's got abandoned credit underneath the particular securities and the taxpayers, and we're going to call the IRS, and we're going to make sure that there is enough credit on the 945 tax return.
Yeah, we spoke about that earlier.
Yeah, for each payer. For which, by the way, there's about 200 payers in our database. And then what we're going to do is, if there isn't enough, we're going to command the Treasury to move funds onto the 945 returns. And then what we're going to do is we're going to file the 1099 OIDs for everybody underneath that payer, nominee payer. And then we're going to wait, having set the trust up, because you've got to have a trust. It's not just a number, it's there's documents and things that have to be set up, right? Which many of the members seem to have forgotten.
Yep.
But they are trust documents, right? We're going to set all those up, which we already kind of did that in the early phase of this process. And then we're going to file the 1099 OIDs electronically. Which has to be done specifically for each of the trusts. It's not like one filing for everybody.
No,
it's individual tax filing.
Individual filing. Yeah.
And then we wait for the IRS algorithm to match everything up and issue the wages and tax transcript, which can take. So that first phase could take 1 to 3 months to get all that organized. And then the next phase is 1 to 3 months of waiting for the wages and tax transcript to arrive back from the IRS algorithm.
Yeah. and to get that
which is like, it's like a pre-confirmation of the amount of credit that the IRS is planning to pay out on their ACH and Fedwire payment rails, right?
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is, once that's come in, is we're then going to file the 1041 tax return. Having set up a bank account for the receiving grantor trust, which is the tax filing grantor trust, having set up a specific bank account for that trust to receive it in the United States.
There's a lot to do.
And then we're going to put on the 1041 tax return exactly the bank credentials so that the electronic transfer can arrive at the bank that has been pre-agreed to receive it.
Yeah, because they're not issuing checks anymore, are they?
Because there's no checks anymore.
No.
Well, not unless there's exceptional circumstances, right? So by the time you've done all that, and by the way, a guy came to me yesterday who came to me through Mel Clark and said that he wanted to learn how to do it all. Would I be happy to teach him all and to give him all the steps, right? And I said, well, I could teach you how to do it all, but I don't think you'll be able to set all the steps up very easily. It's a bit more than just filling in a form and sending it to the IRS, right? So wouldn't it be better if you just came and join us? You let us facilitate it, because it's taken us all these years to set this up, which I think he's agreeing on that now, right? So, the whole thing, and the reason I've explained it and diligently explained it, is because I want to impress on the people watching this video that it isn't just press a button and the IRS sends you a check. Because I think a lot of people have no concept of the complexity of this.
No. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it anyway, wouldn't they? That's the whole point. This is a complex procedure.
You could round it all up by saying that it could happen within 6 to 9 months of the beginning.
Yeah.
Could do. But that is contingent on the IRS fulfilling their end of the bargain with their algorithm,
yeah,
and not putting a spanner in the works anywhere, and not causing any issues for some reason or another, which they shouldn't do. But you never know, do you?
No.
Out there on the old sea, sometimes you get a storm, and you might have to bring your sails in for a while until the storm passes.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen. Maybe the entire US government's going to shut down, like it has done many times before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they invade Iran, and there's a bit of a problem there because they're bombing Iran. So I can't guarantee what's going to happen with your recoupments, but I can tell you what we're doing. But yeah. I can't determine what the IRS do, no. And I can't determine what Donald Trump and his crew do if they want to go around bombing people.
Yeah.
Right?
Just understand that we're all aligned here with you guys. We really are. If you think that this is a constructed delay, you're very, very much off topic. You really are. We want recoupments in yesterday, last year, and we should have had them, in all fairness. We should have and would have had them. At least 600 million that had been confirmed. Absolutely no reason why that wouldn't be here by now, other than the reasons that we've given you. So, we've had to go back and we've had to restart the process again. We've had to wipe that slate clean of the fraud that was attached to it to ensure that the filings moving forwards have no association with what was done. And that's where we're at now. So we're doing new trusts, new EINs, everything had to start again. And based on what Ian's just told you about the complexity of that process, I think you saying, 6 to 9 months is reasonable, but it could take longer. We don't know. There are elements here that are outside of our control. We can only do what we know we can do in terms of what works. And the filing team are working every day, putting all of this through. you're continuing.
If you look at what happened in 2025, all the trusts were set up in the early part of 2025. Filings happened from around February, March. Tax from wages and tax transcripts started coming in June, from June onwards.
Yeah.
Lisa Griffin got her check before September. Then Amy sabotaged it all. So there you go. There's 9 months, right? From January, when we set the trust up, to September, when Lisa got her check because they were still sending checks out, was around 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So bear that in mind, people. Okay. And if you are continually asking the same questions over and over again, in reality, all you're doing is slowing us down, to be honest with you. So please don't do that. Please let us do what we're trying to do and stop asking the same questions. Okay, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about, we've gone through timings, we've gone through expectations. Let me ask you this, Ian, because obviously this is about the currency creation webinar as well. I mean, that certainly applies for the bank recoupments and what we've been going through with bank recoupments. With this being a similar process, could we expect a similar timeline?
Yeah, it's very similar. The only difference is that here we're going to put a lien over the birth certificate construct. And we might be setting a ministry up, depending on whether you want to do that for the getting the special deposit account. But that's not part of the tax filing process. That's an add-on later on. But it's around the same sort of time. You know, it's not like there's nothing substantially different between the two processes. The only difference is that you can go back further back to age 18 now, as the infinite money was 3 years on bank payments and 25 years on mortgages. That's the only difference. It's how far you can go back and what you can recoup. And one of the biggest things that I think you're beginning to realize, because you've heard me say that you can recoup the payroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty big, yeah? The payroll deductions. How much tax have you paid on payroll?
Yeah. If you've been an employed person or been in an employed status for the last 40 odd years, think about that. That's a huge amount.
It's a huge amount, yeah, just on its own.
Just on its own, yeah. Okay. Couple more questions just on timings and expectations. And then what I want to do is just move into kind of wrapping this up and just some clarity as well. So what happens to members who previously paid for the currency creation in 2024? What happens to those people?
Well, a lot of those guys have already used their credit and set it against other protocols.
Yeah.
If you haven't, then you can use it against this, this currency creation protocol that we've relaunched because we're doing it a different way from how I tried to do it in 2024, which I explained in the webinar. Yeah. If you're brand new to it, of course, you've got to be able to finance the setup of it, because that's how we do it. We do take in a donation to further the ministry. We've got a high overhead, and in the absence of recoupments, back end share of recoupments, we need donations to keep our lights on.
Yeah. Okay. You've answered the next question. Can previously issued currency creation protocol credits be applied towards the new structure? Just for clarity, what parts, because there is a structure, as in this is a combination of protocols that are needed for this to work. So what can those credits be applied towards within those given protocols? Is it any of them? Is it some of them?
Well, if you break it into its component parts, right? So you've got the actual currency creation protocol itself, which is like infinite money. It's a module in its own, right? And then you've got the Envoy, which is separate, but is complementary to it. It complements it. And then you've got the Asset Fortress, which is complementary to it. And then you've got a ministry if you wanted to do the ministry. Yeah. So if you paid for currency creation in 2024, you can set that against the currency creation from 2026. But that doesn't mean you can set it off against the Envoy protocol or the Asset Fortress, because they're different things, right? They are different component parts.
Yeah.
So if it's like a car, you pay for an engine, you can have another engine, but you can't have a steering wheel or a back seat, because they're different.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so just moving into the final section then, in terms of just clarifications, there's a few kind of random questions here that I just wanted to cover. One of which, and this is an interesting one because I kind of had a bit of a light bulb moment with this a while ago. What exactly is being recouped? Is it tax? Is it credit? Or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive light bulb moment. You see a lot of people go around saying, oh yeah, we're going to do abandon credit recoupment, and they don't actually know what they're saying, right? Mm. Because they don't put credit on the monopoly board and then ring fence it and take it back off the board.
No,
it doesn't work like that.
No.
You see, let's go into this because I think it's important.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that there was no interest on debt.
Okay.
Can you imagine a world where there was no interest on debt? It would be a strange world.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is the interest on the debt that is the problem. Now I want you to imagine a world where there is no tax.
Okay.
A world with no interest and a world with no tax. Interest and tax, by the way, are basically the same thing. You can say interest and tax are rent.
Yep.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with this?
Yep. I know where you're going.
So, if you are the owner of the energy, right, because the energy comes from you, right, and you're renting it to the monopoly board through the issuance of these securities, which all sounds very complicated, but basically you are putting your energy on the monopoly board and you're renting it to the board. Well, who's running the board? The cabal is, yeah?
Yep.
And everything on the monopoly board that is using the pieces on the board, just like Monopoly, has to pay rent. What happens when you own a hotel on the monopoly board?
Yeah, you land on it. Someone else lands on it.
Yeah. Somebody lands on your hotel, they've got to pay you rent, haven't they?
They absolutely have.
Which is why the playing Monopoly to win is a very good analogy, right? It's not actually an analogy, it's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all the pieces on the monopoly board are using your energy, have got to pay rent. Well, who do they pay the rent to? They pay the rent to the bankruptcy trustee.
Mm-hmm.
We've established that tax and interest are the same thing. They're rent.
Yep.
So all the pieces on the board that are using your energy, i.e. the nominees. By the way, nominees means fiduciary, trustee. Yep. All the trustees, fiduciaries, nominees on the monopoly board are all paying rent to the bankruptcy trustee because the entire monopoly board itself is bankrupt.
Yeah.
Chapter 11 bankruptcy,
yeah,
as confirmed in the HJR 192. Now, in a corporate bankruptcy, the bankruptcy trustee has got to collect from the debtors.
Yeah.
Collect rent from the debtors. So old Jamie Dimon's not going to like this very much if he ever watched this, which he probably won't, but here you go, Jamie. You're a debtor paying rent. to the United States Treasury, your organization, Goldman Sachs, who I actually did some deals with years ago, you're just renting the energy from the people.
Mm-hmm.
You won't like to hear that very much, I tell you. It's got a bit of an ego, old Jamie Dimon has. So what's going on with the Treasury is they're collecting the rent for the creditors. Well, who are the creditors? There are two types of creditor. There is the living men and women who are the creditors. And then there's the other lot. Do you want to guess who the other lot are, Andy?
Go on.
Well, if I was to tell you that the actual controllers of the Monopoly board was a non-human force, would you think I was crazy?
Personally, no. Because I love those kind of conversations.
So imagine the same technology that set up the pyramids.
Yeah.
Completely 100% symmetrical to the Earth and all the grid lines.
Yeah.
Perfectly symmetrical in height to other pyramids in other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. The energy that created that runs the Monopoly board as creditors. And guess who they put in as nominees to run it? The banks, who are nominees for them.
Yeah.
And all of their secret societies. And all of that stuff that's going on in the background that people don't really want to look into, that I have looked into. So you see, the bankruptcy trustee, that is the world's bankruptcy trustee, the United States Treasury, is collecting the rent for all of those pieces on the Monopoly board that are artificial and distributing it back to the creditors. And there's only two types of creditors. There's the people, the living men and women, who they don't want to wake those guys up in that they are actually creditors. And then there's the others who have got nominees on the board who are collecting the rent from the Treasury.
Yeah.
And I could go a lot deeper than that, but I won't.
So to keep this really, really short, you're not recouping the credit. You're recouping the taxes paid.
Yep.
For using your credit, your energy. That's what you're recouping. So I hope that makes a bit more sense. It's not I'm recouping that payment that I made to Sainsbury's, back in 2024, mid-March. It's you're recouping the taxes that have been paid.
The credit that they're using. The taxes are the rent, the interest. Right. I'm going to just add one more thing and then we'll move on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
So go and get in your time machine and transport yourself back to 1926. Can you do that? Go and sit in that time machine, transport back 100 years.
Okay.
And have a look around. What are you seeing out there 100 years ago?
A lot of coal fires.
The 1920s, yeah?
Bit smoggy.
Let's imagine you were in New York and you were in 1926, right? You're probably going to see a lot of prosperity. You're going to see a lot of people investing in stocks, and you're going to see a lot of people having a great time, right? Because the roaring 20s.
The heyday, yeah.
Yeah? Go and get the documentaries out. Go and have a look on YouTube. What was going on in the 1920s 100 years ago, right? Right, now take $1 out of your wallet and go into the most expensive restaurant in New York with your entire family, could you buy them all a meal with $1?
Probably back then.
Yeah, and you get change.
Yeah.
So what happened to the dollar? Now here we are in 2026, 100 years later. You take $1 into the most expensive restaurant in New York and say to the waiter, hey, is this going to be enough? I've got all my family here. We all want a 3-course meal and a bottle of wine each as well, because we like a bit of a drink.
Yeah.
This $1.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he's going to say?
Yeah, where's the other $399?
Yeah, where's the other $500 or $1,000 that you want, you know, that you have to give us? Yeah. So you see, what happened to the dollar was the interest on the rent and the rent.
Mm.
It eroded the value of the dollar right away, didn't it? Yeah. By the way, economists, that's called inflation. It's the expansion of the money supply, which eroded the actual unit value away.
Yeah.
Why? Why did it happen though? It's because the rent was never recouped.
In the first place.
In the first place. So the value of the dollar came down and down and down relative to the value of goods, because all those rents that were paid to the creditors was never recouped. Mm. Which, by the way, if you are an economist and you study, you studied economics, they don't teach you that in economics. They don't actually explain it like that because they don't want you to know how it works. But it makes perfect sense to me.
So in reality, if you are recouping, you're reducing inflation. You're doing the economy a favor.
You are indeed, because you're actually reducing the debt. You see, as the debt comes down, the rent comes down, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? Maybe you'd give old Donald Trump a call and say, hey, Donald, next time you want to get elected, if there is a next time, I'm not sure he can be elected another time, and rather than promise everyone that you're going to reduce the deficit, that you give everybody access to our interviews and our webinars, and they can come and recoup their interest on the debt. And that would actually reduce the deficit, Donald, if you didn't know already.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a thing?
Would be a thing.
Right, let me go into, I've got one final section here, Ian, to do with the 1099s. And I think this is a great question. Why have some people gone to prison for 1099 OID filings?
Yeah, amazing question, especially in the light of, I think it was yesterday, in a strange, quirky event, which isn't strange at all. I know exactly what happened. Dan Needle actually published an expose of Simon Goldberg.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting, right?
Okay.
Very interesting in the fact that I've served notices on Dan Needle and Goldberg and to the FCA and pointed out that what Goldberg has been doing is RICO fraud.
Yeah.
And I've put a great deal of detail into my notices that went to the FCA, went to the RS, went to Dan Needle, went to Goldberg's barristers' chambers, 9 Bedford Row, barristers' chambers, and a number of other high-profile organisations. And then within a few days, having done an interview about Dan Needle in part yesterday, that when we were doing that interview, he issued his big, long, expose of Goldberg's 1099 OID fraud. The very fraud I'd identified and I put in all my notices sent to Needle.
Yeah. Which we did an interview on about a week, 10 days ago, didn't we? Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I'm going to give you all an analogy now that might make this make some more sense, right? Let's suppose that you took your missus to the best hotel in your local city, right? And you wanted to rent the hotel out for a week. You're going to stay in the penthouse suite with no expense spared, right? Okay, so you're now in there in this hotel suite. And then you think, oh, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an advert on the internet and I'm going to sublet this hotel room out, this penthouse suite, to someone else.
Okay.
I'm paying £2,000 a night for this penthouse suite, but I'm going to charge £3,000 a night. Do you think the hotel is going to go along with that?
No.
No. Why not? Is it because they own the hotel, or they think they own the hotel and they set the rate for the rent of their hotel suite, the penthouse?
Too much, yes.
And is it not the occupant of the room? Is the occupant of the room not renting from them?
Yeah.
So how can a renter charge rent?
You can't.
So you see, if you're a renter, and a renter, by the way, is the body corporate construct, we've established that rent and interest are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a renter, i.e. if you are an agent for a renter taxpayer, which is the body corporate birth certificate construct, how do you send tax returns to the bankruptcy trustee as a debtor, as a renter, and ask for your rent back?
Yeah.
Worse, ask for rent back from someone else who's also a renter to send it to you as a renter. Isn't that like trying to rent a hotel room out that you've already rented?
Yeah.
So if you do that, the old bankruptcy trustee down there at the Treasury says, we've got a clown here who thinks that they can recoup rent, but they are a renter.
Yeah.
They don't own anything. They're not really, they haven't got any standing, but they think they can get rent back. But they're a renter. So it's like a beggar on the street saying to the guy who rolls up in his Bentley, I want you to pay me because I'm a beggar. And a lot of guys in their Bentleys would say, no, I'm not paying you. You're a beggar. So beggars don't file tax returns. Renters don't file tax returns. The body corporate construct, birth certificate, don't file tax returns and expect the bankruptcy trustee to recognize them as a creditor when they're not a creditor. They are a renter. They are a taxpayer renter.
Yeah.
So there are three things that are going to happen there. The IRS is either going to ignore the tax filing and just throw it in the bin, or they're going to send out a frivolous filing penalty, which is normally $5,000, by the way, because you've wasted their time on a frivolous matter. Or worse than that, if you're doing it on mass scale, which is what Simon Goldberg has been doing, oh dear Simon, they might actually pick you up and arrest you and put you in jail. Oh dear. That's
so what makes, because I don't want people getting just hung up on, oh my God, 1099 IDs don't work then. It's not about the 1099 ID. It's all about standing. It's all about the status. So what makes this structure different from these failed 1099 ID approaches?
Nominee. So you see, if you are filing a tax return as a taxpayer, you're not due taxes back because you are a payer.
Yeah.
If you put on the 1099 OID that you are a recipient, that means that you must be a creditor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how can a birth certificate construct that we've already established earlier is registered to the cabal on the monopoly board be a recipient as a creditor?
Can't be.
It's impossible to be that. You don't have the standing to be that. So when you put a grantor trust on the monopoly board as a nominee for who? A nominee for the living man woman who is the agent of the body corporate that is acting as the trustee of the new nominee, which is the rightful, lawful creditor.
Yeah.
Now you file a tax return as the creditor from the nominee of the grantor trust. This is the light bulb moment that I had in 2024. Yeah. Now you've completely changed the game, right?
In fact, we are only doing and using the structure that the banks themselves use. The banks are nominees, so it's nothing new that we're doing here. We're not rewriting this. We're just playing. We're playing the game of Monopoly at an advanced level using the rule book.
People have said to me in the past, Ian, sounds amazing what you talk about, but does it work? Well, let me explain something. Go and ask Jamie Dimond. Does the game of Monopoly work for you, Jamie? Because if it works for Jamie Dimond, who's the head of Goldman Sachs, by the way, it's going to work for you because you're playing the same game with the same pieces.
Yeah.
Right? So when I get that question, it's like, okay, I obviously haven't explained it very well. Or the people that are listening to my words aren't hearing them very well. I must use better examples. I must explain it differently because people aren't getting it. I'm not asking you to play a different game of Monopoly. I'm asking you to play the same game of Monopoly as the elites are playing. That's what I'm asking you to do. You don't have to do it at all. You can carry on doing what you're doing now. But if you do the same things that the people who are already playing at the advanced level are doing, you should get the same results. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you wanted to learn how to play tennis and you went to Roger Federer and said, Roger, can you teach me how to play tennis? And he said, yeah, I'll teach you how to play tennis. And you had the same talent as Roger Federer, you'd probably get similar results to Roger Federer, right?
Yeah.
Because he was pretty good at tennis, wasn't he, for a long time, yeah? So if you did exactly the same as he did, and you had the same physique, and you had the same credentials as he had, you probably, if you didn't go on the booze and go on the drugs, you'd probably get the same sort of record that he had, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying to you, is that you can do the same as the elites are doing, using the same techniques that they use, and therefore get the same.
There lies the secret. Using the same tools, using the same techniques. Go back to that same example. If I went to Roger Federer and said, hey, Roger, can you teach me how to play tennis? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Turn up tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. on the court. Let's go. And I turn up in the morning in a diving suit with some flippers on and a big tank of air on my back and a cricket bat. Yeah. Am I going to be any good at tennis? Even though I've got Roger Federer there in front of me? I'm not, am I? So it's all about using not just the same principles that the banks are using, but using the same tools. That's what this is about. And you've got all the tools here. The trust structure, the right form of filing the OIDs, using the 98 Grantor Trust as nominee, everything is there. And what we're doing is we're just following the same rules and principles that are already existing that the banks are using already.
Yeah. So this is what I've had all my career, Andy. You see, people say to me, oh, that thing you've come up with, does it work?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, How can I explain this? Yeah, what I've done is I've brought components that already work, and I've put them together to make up a program. That's what I do. That's how my brain works, right? So I don't invent new things. I just take components that already work and put them together to make a program. And then people say, "Does your program work, Ian?" It's like, well, there's wheels, and there's an engine, and there's a chassis, and there's a bodywork, and there's some seats, and there's a steering wheel. And if you put them all together, you've got a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think cars work, don't you? So if you took them individually and laid them out on your driveway, they wouldn't work very well, would they? But if you put them together and you know how to put them together, then that might actually, your car might actually go down the road. That's all I do, is take the components and put them together. That's it.
Well, we're 3 hours in. I said it was going to be a shorter one, but it hasn't been. But we've covered 40 questions there, literally. I've been highlighting every single one as we've gone through them, and we've covered all 40, including, the ones that I know are on a lot of people's minds surrounding timings. Why haven't I seen recoupments come through yet? So we've covered everything on that list from the webinar, and we want to keep doing this, guys. The format that we want to adopt here is that when you come onto a webinar at the weekend, rather than keeping you on a webinar for hours on end, we want to deliver the important material, Ian to deliver the important material on the webinar. And then if you've got any questions, rather than you get a little bit frustrated that we ran out of time to do it on the webinar, we'll bring it here. We'll bring it into the ROS Media channel, and we'll cover all of the questions from each individual webinar here for you, so that you've got the answer that you asked for.
There is no way that I can deliver a 2 to 3 hour webinar and then do 2 to 3 hours of questions and answers. It's just no way I can't do it. I run out of energy myself, let alone the audience sitting there.
The audience are to do that.
Exactly 6 hours on one day is too much, isn't it? It could be 6 hours. Too much.
But this is what we're going to do. So we're going to split it out moving forwards. Questions will be done with me and Ian. So we'll do that between us. And then obviously Ian and typically Simone will be doing and hosting the webinars at the weekends. And hopefully this is a combination will give you guys what you're looking for, which is, I put a question in, I registered, I put a question in the chat, and Sims acknowledged the question, or if I was hosting it, I acknowledged the question, but we never got around to answering it for you. So now we want to make sure that we do.
And we won't just do it on protocols, we'll do it on anything that is interesting to talk about. So I'm doing research papers on all different subjects. We'll be doing our interviews on those. If you're interested in the research papers that I'm publishing at Ecclesia Law. I think some people are going to get a lot of benefit from watching or listening. You can listen to this in the car if you're driving around, if you really wanted to know about it. You don't have to sit there and read a document. You can listen, you can play the video, you can read the document, you can come to the webinar. And if you don't get it after all those things, then I think you need to go and do something else, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you found this beneficial for you. For all of you that put those questions in, thank you for the questions. I thought we had some really well thought out ones, some that were a little bit surface, some that were a little bit deeper, some that were maybe just to do with their personal situation, which I totally get that, but we've been through them all. Okay. And we'll continue to do that. So thank you for watching. If you found this beneficial and you find the content that we have here beneficial, please share it. Please get the word out. Share it with other people. Share it on your social media. Because as with anything that is this much over the target and that has this much value, that speaks this much truth, it rarely goes viral. It rarely gets the hits that it deserves. It tends to get oppressed. It tends to get shadow banned. It's just the way it is in the world that we live in. It's that fight, between dark and light, isn't it? So if you can help us spread the light, please do by sharing the content so that we can get this message out. Because currency creation, being able to go back to the age of 18 and recoup all that abandoned credit, all that tax, all that rent that's been paid on the credit and the energy that you've issued out, that's life-changing. But I would argue that how can that not be life-changing for anybody that's been working hard all their life, barely making ends meet. Why would we not want to share that with other people? So if you see the value, if you get this, if you are aligned with what we do here when it comes to freedom, then help us out. Share the message, share the content. Let's get this out to as many people who need it as is possible. I will leave you on that note. Ian, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Only that there's much more to come. There's a lot of things that I haven't talked about that we're going to be doing going forward. It's not all going to be about Monopoly Board of Commerce. It's going to be about the energy and the health. It's going to be about, the communications. It's going to be about water. It's going to be about so many other things, which I'm desperate to get into, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been doing Monopoly for a long time, and I want to get into some other things, right?
For sure. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. We will see you on the next one. For now, have a great day, and we'll see you back on the ROS Media channel very soon, I hope. Bye for now.